Welcome back to the OS podcast. This is a little bit of a different episode. I'm going to be answering the question, how does smoking weed affect your gains? Now, personally, I'm not really big into weed myself, but I do have several friends who are pretty avid smokers, and they've been asking me a few times, more than a few times, Oscar, is balling up this often impacting my muscle growth, my fat loss, potentially my sleep? And I got a couple of those questions this week, which is why I thought it'd be a great opportunity to make this episode. So, we're going to cover how weed interacts with our body at a cellular level very quickly. We won't go too deep into it, just some general stuff so you actually know, okay, I'm smoking this. What is it actually doing? Some potential upsides we'll cover that weed can offer us, some potential downsides we may see, and then we'll finish up with some practical advice for when and how you might consider using it in relation to your fitness goals if it is something you enjoy and decide to maybe try after this episode. Not the goal of this episode, though. I don't want to promote anything. Or move away from after watching this episode. So, cannabis contains several compounds with, you have your THC and CBD. They're the most notable. THC is that psychoactive component that makes you feel high. Then we have the CBD component, which is often used for its medicinal benefits, particularly for like inflammation and pain relief. So when you smoke or ingest cannabis, it enters the bloodstream within 30 seconds and starts binding to CB1 and CB2 cannabinoid receptors throughout the body and brain. Now, these receptors are involved in processes like mood regulation, pain perception, as well as appetite control, one of the reasons I do not smoke. And then the effects usually peak within 30 to 60 minutes. They can last for 3 to 4 hours or longer, depending on your metabolism as well as the dosage. Okay, so that was, like I said, very basic, very quick. So, what are the potential upsides we can give us in relation to recovery specifically? I think the biggest benefit one would get is in the context of deep relaxation. So, helping us get into that very parasympathetic dominant state. If you've watched my podcast, you know I love talking about the nervous system. I think it's very pertinent to physique development. So, there's two branches to our autonomic nervous system. We have our fight or flight, that sympathetic state where you're wired, your pupils dilate, think tiger jumping out at you. When we're in that state, there's not much recovery going on, pretty much none. Then we have our rest and digest state. This is our chill, vibing, our parasympathetic state. So weed, being able to help you relax and put your body in that state, is extremely beneficial for recovery. The next upside, or potential upside, depending on what phase you're in, if you're dieting, this one would not be too helpful. If you're me, this one isn't helpful no matter what phase I'm in, and would be quite counterproductive for my goals, but especially if you're dieting, it would be extremely counterproductive, but it can increase your appetite. So if you're in a gaining phase or bulk, likely towards the end, where let's say calories are getting quite high, your ability to eat is becoming an issue. For some people, weed can kind of bypass the appetite issues and allow you to eat much more than you typically could. The next upside is related specifically to CBD. Some studies actually show that CBD can help reduce muscle soreness and inflammation, along with some, when I was digging in, there's some pretty cool neuroprotective and anti-cancer properties. So after I was like doing all this research, I decided to get a supplement called CBD Plus. Try it out from a company called Biolab Shop, which basically is a highly concentrated combination of CBD full spectrum, which contains all the plant compounds, and it does have some adaptogens in it as well. So there is some action on the reduction of cortisol, which is also very positive for recovery. So I'm going to give that a go. I'll see how that is. And then the last positive is sleep. There's a caveat here, which we'll get to, but it can definitely help you get to sleep. And if you, like I said, I've harped on about this a million times, so I won't go too deep into it, but sleep is the most important recovery tool. The better you sleep, the better your muscle growth, the better your fat loss, better your health, better your quality of life, everything, honestly. So there are pretty enticing. Those are quite the benefits. However, there are a few downsides, must mention. The first being, like I said, sleep is a double-edged sword. So it does have a very negative impact on REM sleep if it's used too close to bed. So REM sleep being the stage of sleep where the dreaming occurs, memory consolidation happens. You'd know if you smoke frequently that people or yourself who smoke weed don't remember their dreams. But if you smoke weed for a while and you stop using it, you get these intense, vivid dreams, which is known as REM rebounds. And this happens because the brain actually builds up a REM sleep deficit. And then when the THC is removed, it then tries to recover that REM sleep pretty aggressively. Now, long-term suppression of REM sleep can lead to a whole bunch of negatives, cognitive impairments, mood disturbances, and reduced emotional regulation. So definitely not ideal. And then frequent cannabis users can develop a tolerance and dependence, meaning you'd have to go higher and higher doses over time to achieve that same sleep inducing effect. And this is not ideal. I have a couple friends, like I said, who been smoking since high school, which let's say they've been smoking for 7 years, and then they have to keep up and up and up and some can't even eat without smoking. And one of my friends, so definitely not an ideal spot to be in or get to. So when they stop, they'll get extreme withdrawal symptoms like severe insomnia, anxiety, and disrupted sleep cycles. So not optimal to get to that point. That's pretty bad. Then the rest of potential negatives are pretty individual. I have friends who function just fine smoking quite frequently. I also have friends who get into quite the spiral of just doing absolutely nothing, eating a ton of junk food. So you could be looking at things like lower motivation, drive, all the things you'd want if you wanted to move your life forwards and progress. You can get extreme complacency. So would not recommend. I guess it's up to you to assess whether it's adding to your life, potentially taking away. I think like everything, the dose is the poison. So getting into that, some practical tips if you are going to smoke. First is timing. I would not before the gym because it affects your motor skills and reaction time, which you don't want to be impaired during training. I would also not smoke close to bed. So you're looking at least 3 hours away. So it can be used as a great tool, to be honest, to wind down in the evening, maybe post workout, and then have minimal, if any, impact on your REM sleep. Which is if I were to smoke, again, I don't, but if I were to, that's definitely how I'd use it, just to kind of switch off in the evening. Second tip, honestly, the rest comes down to you. How frequently you use it, how it impacts your motivation, your drive, complacency. To be honest, I'm not here to tell you whether it's good or bad because, like I said, I have friends who, to be honest, function completely fine. Some I have that rely on it way too much. Some, a fair handful, which I've seen firsthand, use it for a while. Then after reflecting on it, they realize they need to take time away from it. So I've kind of seen all angles. And my personal opinion is that if it's something you think you may see benefit out of using, I mean, try it, see how you get on with it. I would not promote it though. Want to make that clear. Do not want to get to a point of where you're dependent on it. But is smoking here and there bad? Probably not. Are the worst thing in the world? Absolutely. Are there positives? Absolutely, like we went through. Are there negatives? Of course. So very quick episode. Kind of a little snippet on how weed impacts your gains. Just wanted to get it out there. I got asked 3 times this week from my friends. So hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them below. If you want a free training plan, 2 free training plans actually to choose from, 4 days a week and 5 days a week. If you want your nutrition set up for you, along with a grocery list, and then plenty of actionable advice and tips to basically fast track your transformation, achieve your dream physique, optimal health, plenty of energy every day, then you can click the first link in the description for my free 30-day email series. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.